So Deloitte published a piece citing a bunch of research that shows that 86% of people care about privacy and want more control. 79% are willing to invest time or money into better protect their privacy. At the same time, they report that data breaches have never been higher, jumping almost 70% in a year. I wonder how many more stats it takes for us to consider these things as a pressing issue, and whether or not there is a finite event horizon around the importance of ethics and our morality in innovation and day-to-day business practice. One of the things that really struck me from the Deloitte piece that's linked in the description here is that it's a sentence that says that tech companies might not be willing to relinquish control even as they're engaged in disputes about data use and privacy. And it's like, it's theoretically interesting that tech companies may not be willing to relinquish control. But the real question is it right for them to have control anyway? It's not about will. It's not about whether they are going to be eager to surrender their commercial model, which is based on individual private information, because the answer is going to be no. So there's no question as to whether or not tech companies are going to be willing to relinquish control. The answer is they won't. So then the question is, that's far more reasonable, is what's the alternative that's built to establish no tech company having control of you and your digital self? This is something that I feel is ever present nowadays. Obviously, apart from hosting this, am the CEO and founder of two projects, Self and Entirety. And so we're doing what we can to build alternatives here. And I'm hoping that either now or in the future, people are inspired by watching this and thinking, I would like to build in this way as well. I want to be on the right side of history on this point. And, you know, the examples at the time of recording at the end of August 24 include NVIDIA. They're caught stealing a, quote, mind-boggling quantity of YouTube videos. And I think what's really ironic about that is that Google, the owners of YouTube, or Alphabet, the owners of YouTube, weren't aware either. And so you've got big tech companies stealing from other big tech companies content that it's actually probably still our content. And it's this layer cake of fraud is insane. What bad looks like, away from a large tech company stealing another large tech company's IP, even if it's our IP, is where a husband whose wife dies in a Disney theme park goes to take legal action against Disney and finds out that he can't, due to the fact that he took out a Disney Plus subscription, which means that he can't take legal action against Disney. And so the consequence of us surrendering our data privacy is far more long-tailed than people realize. In the short term, people feel, well, I'll sign this because it means that I can share videos and content with other people on a social media channel. And the longer term impact of that, or the secondary impact of that consequence, are things like the Disney Plus subscription, meaning you can no longer take any form of legal action against Disney. And, there are so many more examples around this point that, I mean, I've been writing about this for a long time. About 10 years ago or more, I wrote a chapter of a book. The book was called 28 Thoughts on Digital Revolution, and the chapter was called The Privacy Dilemma. And my online following grew due to this chapter, and I thought that it was because people resonated with the chapter, and it turned out it was because Stephen Fry retweeted it, and so it kind of accidentally, I became much more quote unquote visible online. But the truth is that I'm not certain whether anyone actually read the piece itself. Fry did, of course, and we spoke about it afterwards. In that piece that's linked in the description, I asked a question: what if the most private information is the most valuable? Do you A, find more subtle ways of getting it whilst keeping an increasingly suspicious public at bay? Or B, put citizens' privacy under their own control in an honest and decent way? And the landscape we live in is option A, find more subtle ways of getting it and hope that no one ever finds out, or if they do, then the fine is relatively small in comparison to our trillion-dollar market cap. All good. And the issue here is centralized control, greed, and dominion. The issue is also ignorance from the public's perspective. And the issue is also from a tech startup perspective that investors mostly don't care about ethical alternatives, even the ones that say that they do. And the question is, which side are you actually on? It's going to come down to sides. This is a war that we're in, and the war is against ethics. Our weaponry is human rights, and the enemy are all of those who abuse these rights. And every single human should be on the side of ethical human rights. We should, from a human perspective, not be using platforms and channels and tools and technologies that blatantly and flagrantly abuse human rights. And the mission that we're on in Self and Entirety, and any of the other people that I'm interviewing on this channel, and also people in our network of audience, have this option. And this is not the war against ethics that we're facing isn't something that requires us on this side of history to compete to who's going to win in that war against the enemy of inhumane architecture. All that we can do is collaborate. We can't try and jostle into position and be on the faster horse in that battle. It requires all of us to battle together. And paradoxically, we need to use the tools and technologies that are created by the inhumane companies who are and will continue to censor our communication about their unethical practices. That's paradoxical. Until we get to a stage where we have tools and technologies that don't live within that matrix, which is what I'm building with Entirety OS. There is a huge amount of headwind we'll have, not just with what I'm doing, but anyone who's watching this or involved in those type of tools and technologies. We have and will suffer consistent headwind through censorship and cancelling and all manner of avoidance of our voice being heard. And that does not mean that we should stop in this process. It means we have to try harder and collaborate better against this. Anyway, that's my thought of the day. I shall see you soon on the next Ethics TV, and I hope this adds value. Check out the description for the links of pretty much everything I've mentioned, and do a search online for any news article that's happened today of the day that you're watching, and you'll see more examples of what I'm talking about. I'll see you soon.